So as your game becomes more complex and the event list becomes longer, it can sometimes be hard to find things. And so there are a couple of ways that you can organize your code and make it easier to find things and also maybe explain to yourself why you did something the way you did later on or to other people working on your project. The first tool I want to talk about is the group event. So if I go to the plus sign up here at the top and I click plus, notice there's many different kinds of events. Most of these you won't probably need to use in most situations. There are cases where you would want to use them, but the one I'm going to focus on is the group event because that is a useful one. I'm going to click group, and then what I'll do is I'll start out by talking about things that are related to the player. So if I said player events, and then what I could do is drag this up somewhere, and maybe I'll put it right here at the top. And then anything that's affecting the player directly. So, for instance, when I am shooting, okay, so shooting, when there's more shooting and shooting, okay, and now this is actually related to the power up. So maybe I'll add another group and I'll call this power up faster fire. So like if you wanted multiple power ups, you'd want to have multiple groups to separate the code. So I'm going to come up here and right underneath where I put the first one, and then anything related to actually powering up the fire rate. So I'm going to put that here. Is shoot power up? Yep, definitely. Okay, and fire rate timer. Yep. Okay, and then I'm going to look at what's left over. I see I've got some stuff with uh, uh, generating enemy ships, so maybe I'll add a group for enemy ships, and then I'll drag that up, and then I'll put red player. Let's see. So that's the bullet is colliding with a red player ship. Um, enemy spawning. Okay, and the rest of it then, so I see I've got one extra down here I don't need. And then this one applies to everything. So I might just drag it all the way up to the top. It's always running. Okay, but notice that what it's really doing is affecting the camera and the blue player ship. So if I wanted to, I could actually break this up into two separate events. So I could say, okay, I'm going to add a blank event and I'll put it into the player. And for the player, I see that I'm going to add a blue player ship or add to it the force. So I'll put here. Okay. Notice that now I have two of these events with no conditions, but it allows me to organize things so that they're with the object that I'm talking about. This actually affects the camera. So I could add a group for the camera or the scene. So maybe I'll call it scene and camera, and then that way I'd have a group up here that's related to just scene and camera. And as I go through, I can kind of organize what's happening. So here is my player. This is when the player's firing. And then, in fact, I could be more specific and just say player shooting events. But then I wouldn't be able to include this one. So I want to just name it so that I can group these in an organized way, in a way that makes sense. Now, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to name these, but make sure that it's a way that people can follow and most importantly yourself. Does it help you find what you're trying to get? And so that's just a way of organizing. Now, the other tool that we have available to us is what's called a comment. And people sometimes think, why would I do this? I know what I'm doing. But the problem is a year from now, when you go back and look at this game, maybe you want to improve it, you may not remember what you were doing. So for instance, down here in my enemy ships spawning, I may say, oh, I want to make sure I understood what I was doing there. Well, I can add a comment, and there's two ways to do that, either by using the plus and choosing comment, or they actually have it nice and convenient right here. So I can add a comment, and then I can drag it to whatever it applies to. So maybe I'm going to comment on the enemy spawning, and I'm just going to type a message that says spawn enemies at random positions and times. And I'm also going to add this needs to be fixed, because it turns out that the way that we did this, though it was convenient, really is not a good way to do this, because every frame of the game it's going to reevaluate this random number, and that's not really the best way to do that, but it worked. So we started with that, and we'll probably come back and fix that. So a couple of ways to organize your thoughts. Remember, you can add groups to organize things. You can add as many groups as you need to. Like I see, this is all related to player shooting, for instance. So maybe I would create a group called player shooting, and that way it'd be easier for me to find that. So if I went to group, drag that up here, and then maybe that's going to be the group for player shooting. And so it's really up to you how much you break this down. It's about readability and organization and being able to find what you need to fix quickly and easily. And comments are a way of communicating to other people working on your project, or to yourself if it's been a period of time since you last worked on something, so that you can understand, why did I do that?